when we react to something or someone in our life, the chemical change that's created in the body is called a refractory period in science. So you react to someone or something, and all of a sudden you feel different chemically, and you don't know how to control your emotional reaction to that event, and those emotions last for hours or days. You know what that's called? That's called a mood. What's wrong with you? Oh, I thought you'd never ask. I'm in a mood. Really? Why? What happened? Well, this thing happened to me 5 days ago. I'm having one long emotional reaction. Now, if you have the same refractory period going on for weeks or months, that's called a temperament. What's wrong with him? I don't know. He just has an angry temperament. Why are you so angry? Well, this event happened to me 10 months ago, and I'm living by one long emotional reaction. I'm memorizing my emotion. And if you keep that same refractory period going on for years on end, that's called a personality trait. And people wear their emotions layer by layer, and they believe that's who they are. That is not who they are. So then, would you agree with me then that in order to change your personality, you would have to look at the emotions that you've memorized that's become part of your identity? Yes? Now, did you hear me say, go back and look at the event and analyze the event? No, it has nothing to do with the event. When you free yourself from those emotions, then that's when you begin to liberate energy, because the body is no longer enslaved to the past. You with me? So then, you're a wonderful wife, you have a great life, you're living the dream, and all of a sudden, your husband comes home and he announces to you that he's moving to Buenos Aires with his 2 secretaries. And you're raising your children, and you got the whole dream going, and you're angry, and you're frustrated, and you're jealous, and you're envious, and you're sad, and you're going through all these emotions, and you don't know this, but every time you think about the experience, you produce the same chemistry in your brain and body as if the event was happening. So your body's re-experiencing the event 50 to 100 times in a day, and you're conditioning the body into the mind of the past. And then you call up your mother, and you tell her, and then you tell your family, and then you keep talking about it, and you keep running the chemicals and firing and wiring the circuits in your brain, and it turns into a mood, and it turns into a temperament. It goes on for years on end. It becomes part of your personality. You're just that bitter, angry person. And so someone approaches you 20 years later, and they say, why are you so angry? And you say, well, I am this way because of this event that happened to me 20 years ago. From a biological standpoint, what that really means is, I haven't changed in the last 20 years, and this event knocked me out of balance. And this emotion now defines me from that experience of the past. I haven't changed in the last 20 years. You with me? So another woman, she's living the dream, and her husband comes home and he announces that he's moving to Barcelona with his 2 secretaries and the IT guy. Now this woman goes through the same emotions. She's angry, she's frustrated, she's jealous, she's envious, she's bitter, she's hateful, she's judgmental, she's sad. And this goes on for a while. And all of a sudden, she starts to look at how she's feeling, and she says, God, living by these emotions isn't loving to me. And all of a sudden, she grabs the book on unconditional love, and she reads it, and she gets the companion CDs. She listens to those, and she comes to the Unity Church, listens to Reverend Steve, and she's wiring all this information in her brain. And now she's weighing the old beliefs against the new concepts. And now she goes to the dark night of the soul. And she realizes that all the answers have to come from within her. And in a moment, after weeks of learning this information, knocking on the door of possibility, it finally becomes visceral. And she says, oh my God, if I loved myself and I loved my ex-husband, I would free him and wish him the best. And she lets go. She shortens the refractory period of her emotional reactions. That's called emotional intelligence. And she gets on with her life, and she raises those kids by herself. She takes them to the baseball games and the soccer games and the ballet. She works during the day. She goes to school at night. She's up early in the morning taking her kids to the carpool. And years go by, and she finally gets her degree. Within 1 year of her degree, she scores a new job in Austin, Texas, one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. And she gets a great job, and she's working with great people. And all of a sudden, within a year, she falls in love with the senior vice president of the company. And they travel the world, and then they buy a house in the south of France. She spends her summers in France and her winters in Austin. Her kids get married and have grandkids. They graduate from college. Now you approach this woman 20 years later, and you say to her,
not now, let me call you back.
Left you 20 years ago. What do you think she's going to say? That was the best thing that ever happened to me. You see, a memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom, and that's the name of the game here. So then, if you're living by the same emotion every day and you programmed it into your body to become the mind of that emotion, then you're viewing your life through the lens of the past. And when we begin to free the body from the chains of those emotional addictions, and the body settles into the present moment, and it's liberating energy, that's called joy. And that's when you see a whole new landscape. You see possibility that you never saw before because you're no longer viewing it through the past. How many people are with me? Now, are you still geniuses? Poke the person next to you, please. You're geniuses, right? So think about this. If you were thinking and feeling and thinking in the same cycle, according to our model, if emotions are the record of the past, then your body's not having any new experiences. And because it's not having any new experiences, it's not getting any chemical feedback from the environment. You with me? So everything stays the same, right? Now, if you were to take out one cell of your body, a skin cell, and you were to stretch the DNA out of that skin cell, it would be 6 feet tall. Okay? If you took out all the DNA out of your entire body and you stretched it out from end to end, it would go to the sun and back 150 times. You with me? If you took all of DNA on everybody on the planet, the 7 billion people, and you scrunched it together, it would fit in a grain of rice. Now, your body is a protein-producing machine. You with me? Muscle cells make muscle proteins called actin and myosin. Skin cells make skin proteins called collagen and elastin. Thyroid cells make thyroid proteins called thyroxine. Immune cells make immune proteins called antibodies. You with me? So your body's a protein-producing machine. Now, in order for your body to make a protein, a gene has to be switched on, or a gene has to be activated. You with me? So, when they did the Human Genome Project, they went like this. They said, okay, let's see, there's 100,000 proteins that make up the body, So there should be about 100,000 genes in each cell. Well, it takes about 40,000 regulatory proteins to make those 100,000 proteins. So it's 140,000 proteins in the body. We should have 140,000 genes. How many people are with me? But one-to-one correlation. Well, when they did the Human Genome Project, guess what? We only expressed 23,000 genes. We have way more proteins than we have genes, which means then that each individual gene can have thousands of different variations. You with me? So then, 23,000 genes, you are 98% chimpanzee, 300 genes away from a chimp, 70% rat, some more than others, but roughly 70%. There are more genes in an apple than you have. So then, if an organism is facing adverse conditions in its environment, think about the Galapagos Islands. All of a sudden, this island just breaks away, or Madagascar breaks away from the typical environment. And the organisms now have to embrace the new conditions in the environment. With the changing conditions in the environment, the organisms have to behave differently and make different choices in order to adapt to those conditions. You with me? Poke the person next to you, quick. So if the organism's able to adapt and change its behaviors, it should have a new experience, right? And then the new experience produces new chemical information from the environment, and that chemical information then begins to signal the gene. And so by the redundancy of the same signal from the same experiences in the environment, you keep knocking on the genetic door, all of a sudden the gene turns on and it makes a new protein. So if it's cold temperatures, all of a sudden the organism, through the series of exposures, has thicker fur. Fur is a protein. If it's predators chasing prey, they have longer legs. If it's altitude, hemoglobin binds to oxygen more. It's a protein. If it's current, bigger tail fin. It's a protein. So then, as the organism begins to adapt to the experience, then it begins to produce different chemical feedback through experience that begins to signal the gene. So then if emotions are the end product of past experiences, and you're thinking and feeling in the same cycle, you're keeping the same genes turned on and the other genes turned off, and now you're headed for your genetic destiny. How many people are with me? You got that, yes? So then here's my question. What if nothing new is happening in your life? Can you signal the gene ahead of the experience? That's called epigenetics. So then, if you take a group of diabetics and you have them watch a comedy show for 1 hour and you measure their blood sugar levels before and after they've eaten a meal and they watch a funny show, that within 1 hour they signal 23 new genes that begin to regulate their blood sugar. Turn on new genes, turn off old genes, just by changing their internal state. If you take a group of stressed out people that are executives, and you teach them how to relax for 6 weeks, to meditate and to breathe, they regulate 1,561 new genes. But if you're thinking and feeling in the same way every single day, you keep the same genes turned on and the other genes turned off, and now you're headed for your genetic destiny. And in fact, if you keep signaling the same gene with the same emotion that makes the same protein, sooner or later the gene's going to wear out. It has to begin to make a cheaper protein. So then all aging is the result of improper protein production. What happens when you age? What happens to your muscles, your joints, your bones? It's all protein. Your hair, your skin. So then, if you could signal the gene ahead of the environment, then you may have the key to begin to change your health. How many people are with me? Yes? And so when we do the meditations in our workshops, and by the way, the advancing workshops, we're in and out of meditation all day long. You're changing beliefs and perceptions about yourself and your life. You're reconditioning your body to a new mind. You're finding the present moment. We're tuning into possibilities.
Hi, Nan.
We just did this for you. We love you. And
So
have a beautiful day.
Begin to understand
Love you.
that